everybody. This is Madison for Worldwide Web of Therapists. We're here for episode number 3 with Bonnie Houpt. Bonnie, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie. I am a music therapist in Denver, Colorado, with my own private practice. I work with individuals with disability, ages kind of 3 and up, but pretty much all ages. And I'll do music therapy, or I do a lot of adaptive lessons as well for people with and without disabilities, just kind of varying ability levels. I love working with beginners. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing, along with a lot of online kind of projects this year that kind of birthed out of having to pivot with the pandemic.
Awesome. I love that so much. So I want to know what got you started into a helping profession?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I went into school for music ed. I didn't know what music therapy was. I just, from middle school, I knew I was going to major in music. Like, I just kind of knew that from middle school. And performance just never really spoke to me, so I was thinking music ed. And then I got to University of Georgia, and some people started telling me they had music therapy as their degree, and I was like, what's that, you know? And so I started navigating towards that more, like in the library. Those books would interest me a little more than the music ed books. And then a friend of mine was like, I'm going to double major in music ed and music therapy. So I was like, I am too. And then we took like the intro class, which was kind of hard for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided, I'm just going to do music ed. Like, and this is a lot of hours to do both. And but I was torn because I always kind of thought I'd be a music educator, but I ended up choosing music therapy because I kind of discovered what was most appealing in the music ed part for me was that helping aspect, was that I would get to help people through music, and music educators do help people through music, but it was even more so the goal of music therapy was really to help people with music. So since that was something that really resonated with me, I ended up going that way and went straight into like my practicums, and like it really fit with what I wanted to do like right away. So I knew that it was the right choice.
Awesome. I love that.
My sister's actually a counselor, so it was really funny. It never clicked in school because I was always like, I want to be like a music major. I'm going to be a music major, and I never thought about being a therapist. And looking back, I feel like that's something I would have been really interested in high school even too. I just was so zoned in on the music part. So if I would have known about music therapy in high school, I think I would have like 100% picked that as a degree.
I feel like a lot of music therapists have that. Like, I know I want to do something with music, but I just don't know what it's going to be. And then, that helping. So you own a private practice. Super awesome. Tell us a little more about music therapy work in private practice.
Yeah, so it's interesting because you can kind of create what you want to work, like who you want to work with, like how often do you want to see them. So for me, I really kind of niched myself. I target individuals with disabilities, like specialized working with them.
Mm-hmm.
What was cool about private practice is if I ever wanted to work with older adults or another population, you can do that as a private practice owner.
Absolutely.
And kind of create those doors. I will say like the advocacy piece, I feel like is so strong. As it is for all music therapists, but like as a private practice owner, that's like a huge part of your job is like for me, like going to the day programs and explaining what music therapy is and trying to get that set up there. So those are kind of the first things that come to mind, but I really get to create everything, create who I work with, create my schedule, create sources of funding, and try to explore more accessibility aspects of that as well too, which I'm working on. But yeah, so it's just I find myself really being creative in the business side of things too. Like I love making interventions for my clients, but I find like I do a lot of my creative kind of like outlet with it in my business as well too. So
that's awesome. I feel like it's super important to, if you have the creativity to let it shine, in every way that we can.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So do you have a client story that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, well, I've always found this question interesting for me because I feel like I don't have like a big moment, but I love all the little moments. So I try to write them down if I can remember to, because so much happens all the time, and sometimes it can
Absolutely.
be so small, it's easy to forget it. So I try to write them down. But like even recently, I was working with a young client with a disability and working on piano and adapted piano lessons. And it's difficult to not just use your index fingers. So we're doing this big like kind of improvisation warm up where we have different movements on the piano, some really big ones, some with individual fingers, and we come up with like creative names for all of them. So we'll be like, this one's frog, this one's elephant. So like, let's play elephant and use all your fingers. And like a few weeks after we started doing that with this client, just in between the movements, I was watching him, and this is online, and I'm watching him, and he just kind of started like holding his hand over the piano and just kind of moving each finger, and I was just like fine motor wise, like
Yeah,
that's huge. That's so
that's
huge. And it was
awesome.
such a small moment, but I made sure to even like tell the parents at the end of the lesson. I was like, yes, it's hard to use all our fingers on piano, and some of this is so long term, but today, like he was moving each finger, not even on the piano, but he was thinking about it. So you can see that processing and that long term learning happening.
That's
And just like
amazing.
little things like that stick in my mind for sure.
That's something very awesome, and I feel like I need to do more. Is look at the little things. That we always, you're right. We focus on these big like, okay, but like I think that some of the work in my internship, I learned that the work happens like in the the progress. It's not about the big. I mean, yes, it eventually leads up to sometimes a big like wow moment, but it's those things that you should be noticing in your sessions.
Yeah, and like HIPAA compliant and everything. I will like write these down in a little journal with no like identifying information, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but just kind of to capture these small moments to try to look back on. I need to get back in the habit of doing that, but that's one I need to add, I think, actually. So it's just like those really small moments or those small things that happen. Recently, like another client too, the mom just at the end was like, they were so happy, and that's not something I maybe would have even like thought of afterwards, but like that was significant for that kid that
Yeah,
day, was like that happiness factor, even like was something that maybe they're working on that you don't even see when you're not there. So like just getting those small things and being like, oh, like this is creating long-term change with all these little moments.
absolutely. Awesome. Um, so how is the telehealth therapy for you? Are you? I'm in New Jersey. It's very restricted still. I don't know. How is it in Denver?
It's pretty mixed for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all online right now, and probably for a while, just to stay as safe as possible.
Yeah.
And because I usually go in homes, that's so tricky. I feel like if I had my own clinic space, I could do a little more because I could really control a lot of the factors.
Yeah.
But going into everybody's home, there's so many like things I can't control because it's other people's homes, and then I'm in
Mm-hmm.
one home and another home and another home. So for now, I've decided online's the safest way for us to meet, and it's been effective for my clients.
That's good.
So we continue meeting online, and I've liked it a lot. I think I was nervous at the beginning. I definitely like threw myself into it. I think I gave myself. There was like that weekend in March, everything in Colorado kind of like shut down, and for a lot of us in the U.S. And then I kind of took that next week off, and I was just like consuming everything I could find online about like online stuff. And that next week, I started online stuff with most of my clients, and well, I lost about half my caseload, but the ones that stayed, and then we kept them the rest of the time as well. Like they've been staying with me since the switch. So it was interesting that the families that were like, yeah, let's try it, not only tried it, but like it worked well and continued.
Yeah.
And the other ones are just kind of like on this like indefinite hold. Like I haven't, I guess, technically lost anybody. Maybe I'm trying to like keep contact with some of my day programs and just kind of keep that relationship open, and maybe when things are safer, see if that space is still there. But
Yeah.
it's been interesting. But I've really liked like it's growing on me for sure. I think it will have its space in my practice in some sort in the future, whether that's snow days or clients that are just too far away, like
Mm-hmm.
that having that option for them. And of course, I'll get back in person with as many people as I can. But
Yeah.
I think it does have its place now because I really like it. And I think it's going to be hard for me to go back to in person because I feel like I've really shifted my brain to like the online like space, like knowing like, okay, I need like really strong visual kind of prompts versus like maybe gestural physical prompts. And I can have my notes right here, or like nobody can see them. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting going back in person where it's like, oh, I guess I could still have notes in the room, but it's definitely not going to be like as accessible. But I mean, of course, there's different music making that you do online and in person too. So just almost finding that switch will be interesting when we go back. So.
Yeah. It's definitely different, and I think you're right, it is a place, and it's gonna probably be a forever thing now. Even, like you said, like snow days, that's really convenient actually for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's been a big talk with Colorado music therapists. We're like, wait, we could give this option on snow days, like, or if like the therapist is like a little sick, like when you're like, or even like a family is maybe a little sick. Obviously, if you need to take a sick day, take a sick day.
Yeah.
But if you have a fever and otherwise you feel okay, but you don't feel comfortable going in person, then if you're comfortable, you could have that online option almost as a makeup too, which for a private practice owner where your schedule is kind of all over the place, it just kind of opens an extra door of like, oh, we have this option now in the future that has always been there. And some therapists have done, I feel like the therapists who have been doing this before COVID, like that must be strange for them to be like, oh, I was doing this, guys.
Yeah.
and now it's going to be a standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what universities are doing, but I feel like you have to talk about it now, you know? So it's going to be a standard moving forward, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were talking about your visuals. You are like, I love your stuff. I found you. I found your stuff, your resources, months ago, before COVID, and being home, and I don't have any clients right at the moment. So I had lots of time to like dive in and find your stuff. I love your resources. I love the songs and the interventions that you come up with. And you even have a podcast.
So I've been doing a lot of online stuff and before COVID too. So I guess I'll start in that order. Just like it might have been in my internship, early practice, or early just professional career. I started just sharing a few things online. I started my Instagram before I started my like full-time business. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of interesting to see like that timeline. So I started sharing before I went full-time into my private practice. And I would just share like some little songs I started making, which I really didn't write any songs until my internship. So I think internship pushes us all, and so that's something that I explored more in internship and found that I enjoyed. I really look up to like Rachel Rambach, Stephanie Level, and their children's songs. So I was consuming a ton of that. And then, just posting my own. And then COVID really pushed it where I almost post every week on YouTube.
Awesome.
Almost. Which, was not the case before. I think it was like once a month was kind of my goal before COVID. And then with just kind of extra time and more almost online hanging out, I guess.
Yeah.
Just posting more online. I have a song coming up about my cat soon.
Ooh.
So we'll see. She didn't cooperate very well in the video, but that's very cat of her.
We have 4 in our house, so I understand that.
But just trying to incorporate things like that because people have pets at home too. So I was like, this could be an interesting kind of way to do that. And then visuals I've been sharing. I have a Pinterest account where there's a few visuals there, but I mostly kind of try to put all my videos there in one spot other than YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. And then I started a podcast in May. I post once a month for now. We'll see. Just kind of easing into it. Yeah. Because it's kind of a whole ordeal. I'm sure, as you know, with this, because this isn't a podcast, but it's very similar. Like, what would we call this? Vlogging?
Yeah, I'm calling it vlogging. That's what I've decided. I've made the...
vlogging.
Yeah. I haven't actually vlogged because I feel like a little self-conscious about that, but maybe one day. I don't know.
Yeah, you were talking about that in a previous episode, and I thought that sounded so cool. And if I had the time, I thought maybe I'll do that in my stories, because I know sometimes people will do like day in the life or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just blogging. It's kind of fun and cool. But yeah, my podcast is about adults with disabilities, not limited to music therapy. It's called Navigating Adulthood in IDD.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, I'm like, why did I say IDD? Because I should have just said disabilities. Because it's not necessarily limited to intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a big population music therapists work with. So I think my mind like kind of was thinking that when I was making it, but I was like, oh, there's other disabilities too. And I'll probably explore them on the podcast eventually.
Awesome.
But yeah, I interview professionals and or individuals with disabilities to just kind of gather resources for that adult group, because as much as I am online, as much as I've been online, for whatever reason, there's like a lack of resources for that specific age group of people with disabilities, where there's a ton of kids stuff, tons and tons and tons.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the idea of like you're supposed to take it and kind of adapt it, which works with some things, but not a lot of them. So it's just a place to kind of gather more resources for that population in general. Yes, music therapy, because that's kind of my orientation and expertise, but definitely with other professionals, because I was talking to my friend Christine, who's in episode 2,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same thing. She's a yoga instructor, yoga therapist. It was like the same thing. All kids resources, no adults. And so it's like, oh, this is not like specific to music therapy. This is just something unfortunate with that population where there's so many people working with them, but for whatever reason, there's that online disconnect right now. So it's my small way of hopefully getting some more resources out there into the internet for people.
I love it.
Work with them.
I love it. Once I saw your podcast, I obviously listened to it, and I really love the work that you're doing, and I felt like I needed to feature you on here just so, give you that, if anybody else who is, an adult with IDD or, can see your work, I would love that for you. Because it's really important and it's needed. You're right. There is a huge, even I noticed, I was supposed to be starting in a public school district from preschool to high school. Like the high school age or middle, there's not many resources for that.
Yeah, you're right. It's very like early intervention, preschool.
Yeah.
So that is like, oh, like, am I supposed to just take this and use it with high schoolers? No. So yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I feel like there's maybe a little more for high schoolers out there than adults, but definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm almost just thinking of one blog in my head specifically. Whole Tone Harmonies. I don't know if that's right. I might need to send you something later. But they do a lot of teens on their website, like free teen resources.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's where I found some stuff for my internship when I was working in a private school for kiddos with special needs. So yeah, but yeah, you're definitely right where it's like, why is it so? I mean, it's focused on the younger age because that's such an important age to really make sure the interventions are being applied, because they are young, and we know with kind of neurology, like that's some of the best time for learning.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame that the focus stays there and doesn't like shift with the individual that gets older.
Yep, that's very true. And I think that's also maybe resources are, therapies are more sought when a child is younger. Right. For the most part, that could be, but like still, it's very important.
Thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where can our viewers connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm all over social media. People at conferences will be like, I follow you on Instagram. So I post a lot. You can find me at Rhythmic Roots Music Services on Facebook and Instagram. And then I'm also on Pinterest. And those links are like, if you go to my Instagram and click on Linktree, like the Linktree, you can find everything. So I have a Pinterest, a YouTube channel, LinkedIn. Yeah. And you can send me a message. Well, probably don't send me a message on Pinterest, but you can send me a message anywhere else and I'll respond. And then my email right now is bonnie@rhythmicrootsmusictherapy.org.
Awesome. I'll put those in the description for anybody who wants to connect. And to wrap up, I would like to know what's something that you want to tell the world?
I want to tell the world to be kind.
I love it.
Be kind to others, be kind to yourself. The world could always use more kindness, and that can start with you, just to yourself.
Absolutely agree. That's perfect for what's going on in the world right now too. So.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Bonnie, for taking the time and interviewing. I love what you're doing, and you're really like one of my music therapy inspirations. So it was awesome to get to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Madison. Thank you for having me on. This has been so exciting, and I cannot wait to watch your future episodes.
Thank you. Bye.